You thought the silence meant nothing was happening. But beloved, that quiet was your soul rearranging the stars. There is a moment in every becoming when what once held you begins to pinch. The air in a room that used to bring you comfort suddenly feels heavy. The laughter of old friends doesn't land the same, and the streets you used to skip down feel too narrow for your stride. It's not arrogance. It's not sadness. It's evolution knocking on the walls of your comfort zone. When the places that raised you begin to feel like they are trying to cage you, you are not broken. You are being rebuilt. You notice it first in silence. You walk into a room you used to call home, and something shifts. You hear everything and nothing all at once. The voices are still talking, but they don't speak to your soul anymore. You smile out of habit, but inside your spirit leans away. It's not rejection, it's revelation. You've outgrown what once fed you because your spirit is hungry for something more nourishing now. Growth doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. Sometimes it enters like a sigh, a simple, sudden knowing, this no longer fits me. And the moment you feel that, you begin to lose the taste for what used to satisfy you. You start to sense that your peace doesn't belong where your power keeps shrinking. You sit at the table and realize you're pretending to care about things that no longer matter, pretending to laugh at old jokes that once made you fall over in tears, pretending to belong in a place that doesn't ask how your soul is doing. And that's where it begins, not with anger, but with a deep, aching honesty. I don't belong here anymore. It's not about the people. It's not about being better. It's about being different now. The version of you that once danced in these circles is gone. And the new version, this softer, stronger, clearer self, is craving fresh air. Sometimes it feels like betrayal, like you're turning your back on the very ground that shaped you. But you must remember, the pot that holds the seed cannot contain the roots forever. At some point, even the richest soil becomes too small. You are not betraying your beginnings. You are honoring your growth. There's a grief in it too, a quiet mourning, for the memories, for the rituals, for the routines that once gave your days their rhythm. But let that grief come. Let it pass through you like the last rain of spring. It is simply making room for the life that's waiting on the other side of your resistance. You don't need to explain it to anyone. Not everyone will understand why you no longer want to sit at the same tables, wear the same labels, walk the same paths. And that's okay. Some people only knew the version of you that could be caged. They loved the you that dimmed your light just enough not to blind them. But now your light is not up for negotiation. You are not being difficult. You are being called. You may feel alone for a while, like a bird too big for the nest, wings aching to stretch but still unsure how to fly. You will question yourself. You'll ask, why can't I just be satisfied like I used to be? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, who am I becoming that this no longer feels like enough? Discomfort is divine. It is the Spirit's way of nudging you forward. It is the soul's whisper that your time here is done. And when you feel it, don't shrink. Don't numb it with distraction. Don't silence it with guilt. Listen. Because when familiar places start to feel foreign, it means your destiny is getting dressed. One day, you will look back at these places with love, not longing. You will honor them for what they gave you and release them for what they cannot hold. You will understand that not all homes are meant to be permanent and not all comfort is safe. Sometimes what feels good is the very thing that delays your greatness. So if you find yourself squirming in the places where you used to bloom, don't panic. You're not broken. You're breaking free. That restlessness isn't failure. It's a forecast, a sacred signal from the deepest part of you that you are getting ready to rise. and rise you will. There's a kind of tired that no amount of sleep can heal. It creeps in behind your eyes even after you've rested. It follows you in quiet moments like a shadow that won't leave. You wake up and your body has energy, but your soul, oh, your soul is weary, not from labor, but from becoming. This tired is sacred. It's the fatigue of a woman who's been strong too long, the exhaustion of a man who's kept his storm quiet so the world could stay calm. It's the weight you carry when you've outgrown the life wrapped around you, but haven't yet found the strength to peel it off. You're tired, but it's a different kind of tired. Not lazy, not burned out, not ungrateful. This is a divine weariness, the kind that visits when your spirit is evolving faster than your reality can keep up, when your inner world is shifting and stretching and rearranging, and your outer world hasn't caught the memo yet. You feel it in your chest first, that invisible pull between what is and what could be. It's not that you hate your life, it's that your soul has tasted more, dreamed more, glimpsed something bigger. And now everything ordinary feels too loud, too tight, too small. The tired comes when you're holding back a truth that no longer wants to be quiet. You try to function, you get up, you smile, you fulfill the role. But inside, the ache grows, not painful, but persistent. It's like a whisper at the edge of your thoughts. There is something more for you, and every time you ignore it, the tired gets heavier. This isn't about sleep. You could lay down for a week and still rise up weary, because this kind of tired comes from carrying dreams that haven't yet been birthed, from being pregnant with purpose in a world that tells you to perform instead of pause. It's the tired of becoming someone new without a guide, of building yourself from scratch when no blueprint was given, of shedding old identities that kept you safe but silent. People see you functioning and assume you're fine. They don't hear the inner work you're doing just to keep walking. They don't see the battle between the old self begging to be known and the new self demanding to be born. They don't see you praying for strength in the bathroom, washing your face with purpose and calling it routine. You're not broken. You're becoming. When a butterfly is forming in the cocoon, it doesn't move much. It doesn't fly. It doesn't sing. It rests, because even in stillness, there's transformation. What feels like stagnation is actually sacred work. Your wings are forming, even if no one else can see them yet. And that tired you feel, that ache in your spirit, that's your wings demanding space to stretch. You don't want to pretend anymore. You don't want to perform the old version of yourself just to keep others comfortable. You don't want to keep showing up in places your soul has outgrown. And so the tired deepens, because pretending is a heavy cloak. But here is the truth. They can't see what you're carrying because it was never meant for them to carry. They can't feel what you're feeling because the dream inside you was assigned to your soul alone. So if they don't understand you're tired, forgive them. If they try to push you to be more productive, forgive them. If they say you're changing and they don't like it, forgive them. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be aligned with your divine becoming. So rest when your body tells you to rest. Be gentle with yourself. Stop measuring your worth by your pace. Stop trying to outrun the stillness. The cocoon is not a prison, it's a sanctuary. You are not falling behind, you are being fortified. There will be days when you feel like you're unraveling. Let it happen. Because what looks like falling apart is often just the old layers making room for the new. You don't have to explain this tired to anyone. You don't have to justify your softness. You don't have to rush the process. Everything sacred takes time, and you, beloved, are sacred. This tired is not weakness. It is a sacred signal that you are mid-metamorphosis. The weariness is not here to stop you. It is here to still you so you can hear the voice that's been drowned out by hustle, the voice that says, you are almost there. Keep trusting, keep softening, keep unfolding. You're not tired because you're lost. You're tired because you're growing. And growth, real soul-deep growth, requires everything. There comes a time in your journey when people begin to shift, not all at once, not with thunder or noise, but slowly, like the tide pulling back to make room for something new. You look around and realize that some people who were once your everything are now just passing conversations. Some drift quietly, others fall away loudly. Either way, their leaving teaches you something about arrival, your own. It starts subtly. The phone rings less. The conversations feel shorter. The laughter doesn't land the way it used to. You try to connect, but the thread feels thin, like a bond being pulled too tight, fraying at the ends, and you wonder if you're imagining it. You question yourself, did I do something wrong? Am I changing too much? But the truth is, change always changes who stays. There are seasons for people, just like there are seasons for flowers. Some bloom only in the spring of your life, the bright, warm, easy moments. Others grow with you through storm and drought. The lesson is not in holding on. The lesson is in learning who can handle your growth without shrinking your light. When your spirit begins to rise, it rattles the comfort of those who've built their sense of self around the old version of you. They say you're different, and they say it like an accusation, not a compliment, and maybe you are. But different doesn't mean distant. It means deeper. It means you've stopped performing. It means your mask cracked, and you chose not to replace it. Some people love the you that needed them. The you that bent to keep the peace, that quieted your own needs so theirs could echo louder. When you start to reclaim your voice, when you stop explaining your no or shrinking your yes, their comfort trembles. And in that trembling, they shift. Let them. Let the ones who can't celebrate your healing slip away. Let the ones who only loved your wounds fall silent when you begin to mend. Let the ones who grew with you only in struggle, not in strength, fade. Not everyone is meant to sit at the table of your wholeness. And that hurts, doesn't it? It hurts to realize the people you once would have crossed oceans for wouldn't even walk across the street for your peace. It hurts to watch familiar hands let go when all you did was grow. But know this, every soul that leaves creates space for someone who sees you clearly, who doesn't need you to stay small so they can feel seen. In the shifting of people, you learn how sacred your energy is. You learn that proximity doesn't always mean presence, that some people only love the idea of you, not the truth of you. And now that your truth is louder, they feel exposed, not by you, but by their own unwillingness to evolve. You begin to notice new souls stepping in, quietly, intentionally. Souls that feel like rest, like safety, like conversations that stretch, not drain. They won't ask you to dim your light. In fact, they'll hand you the matches to burn brighter. And you'll wonder where they were all this time. But they couldn't come before. You hadn't made space. It's easy to mourn the ones leaving, but don't forget to bless them. Even the ones who hurt you. They were teachers, mirrors, midwives to your awakening. They served their purpose. Some pushed you, some broke you, some loved you until you learned to love yourself. Be grateful, even for the pain. It taught you how to rise. The people around you start shifting when your alignment gets louder than your attachment. When your peace becomes more precious than your popularity. When your calling begins to speak louder than your comfort zone. That shift is divine. That shift is your soul clearing the room for the life you actually deserve. Don't chase those who walk away. Their absence is their answer. And don't fear the solitude. It's in that quiet that your spirit grows roots. It's in the stillness that your heart regathers its rhythm. And soon, You'll find yourself surrounded not by many, but by the few who truly see you. Not the mask, not the performance, but the soul. This is the sacred unraveling of what no longer aligns. Let it happen. Let it flow. You're not losing people, you're finding yourself. And the ones who are meant for the real you will never ask you to pretend. They'll recognize your growth, they'll honor your becoming, and they'll stay. There comes a moment when the things that used to pull you no longer move you. You hear the same invitations, feel the same temptations, but they pass by like echoes in a hallway you've already walked through. What once made your heart race now barely stirs the dust beneath your feet, and you realize you're no longer that version of yourself. The distractions you used to chase, the drama you once fed on, the validation that once felt like air, you look at them now and feel nothing, not hatred, not bitterness, just release, just peace, like finally putting down a weight you didn't even know you'd been carrying. There was a time when you ran after things just to feel alive, chased applause because it sounded like love, craved noise because silence felt too much like loneliness. You said yes to everything just to keep from facing yourself. But now you've sat with yourself long enough to see what you were really running from. Now the glitter doesn't blind you. The spotlight doesn't seduce you. The sweet talking doesn't sway you, not because you've grown cold, but because you've grown wise. You've seen what shallow water offers. It wets the feet, but never quenches the thirst. You're not just looking for moments anymore. You're looking for meaning. You remember when you thought attention was affection, when you thought being chosen meant being cherished. You wore yourself thin, trying to earn what could never be yours by force. But now you've tasted solitude, and you've realized that peace is far sweeter than performance. That thing you used to crave, it comes around again, wearing the same mask, whispering the same promise. But your spirit doesn't move. It doesn't even blink, because you've seen what's behind that curtain. And you know now, if it costs your peace, your truth, your light, it's too expensive. You've stopped needing the rush that comes from proving yourself. You've stopped picking up the phone when chaos calls. You no longer feel the need to explain why you're unavailable for your old patterns. You just don't answer anymore, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. It's not that the world stopped offering its illusions. It's that you stopped needing them. You've traded cravings for clarity. You've exchanged temptation for truth. The high you used to chase now looks like a low. And the low you feared, solitude, stillness, silence, now feels like home. The old you would have bitten the bait, would have danced for the attention, would have swallowed the compliments, even if they came wrapped in poison. But you've done the work now. You've gone within. You've peeled back the layers. You've faced the child inside you, the wounds, the lies, the ache. You've cried in quiet corners and come out stronger. So when those old desires knock, you smile, not out of pride, but out of power. Because you remember when you would have opened the door wide. Now you let them knock, let them wonder, let them pass. You're too rooted now to be moved by things that used to shake you. You used to want to be seen. Now you want to be safe. You used to crave noise. Now you crave nourishment. You used to go where the crowd pulled you. Now you go where your soul points. And the beauty is, it doesn't feel like loss. It feels like liberation. You've stopped dressing up for places that never saw your worth. You've stopped dimming your light so someone else could shine. You've stopped setting yourself on fire to warm people who never said thank you. You've stopped answering the call of your old self, and that's how you know you've healed. The old desires don't tempt you anymore because they don't fit who you are becoming. You don't need them to feel enough. You don't need them to fill the silence. You don't need them to escape your truth. You are finally full on the inside, not with noise, not with attention, but with something deeper, something real. You are full of wisdom, of stillness, of truth. You found what no outside source could ever give you. And once you taste that kind of peace, everything else feels loud, fake, unnecessary. You're not empty anymore. You're clear. And that is the moment you know you're not just changing, you have already changed. It begins subtly, almost playfully. You glance at the clock and it reads 11:11. You pass a billboard and a word leaps off it like it was written just for you. A stranger says something in passing and it feels like a message. You hear the same song in 3 different places. You start seeing numbers, names, symbols, even dreams that return again and again like a gentle nudge from the unseen. And you ask yourself, is this a coincidence? But deep down, you already know the answer. When your life is on the brink of change, the universe does not stay silent. It begins to speak in the language only a soul can understand. Not loud, not obvious, but insistent. Like breadcrumbs laid across your path, pointing toward a life you haven't yet stepped into, but are already being summoned toward. These signs are not always dramatic. Sometimes they show up in whispers, not thunder, but they always come with a feeling, a tug in your chest, a stillness behind your eyes, a knowing that says, this is not random, this is for me. It might be the same phrase you overhear from different people in the same week, or a word that appears in a book, a sermon, and a podcast, as if the world has joined hands just to get your attention. You try to ignore it at first, you try to tell yourself you're just being sensitive, but something in your spirit leans forward every time because the message has weight. It lands. You begin to understand that everything is connected, that there is no such thing as just a coincidence when your soul is wide open and listening. You become more aware of your surroundings, of how the trees seem to lean in just so, of how the wind carries messages through silence, of how a child's smile can crack the hardest part of your day wide open and pour in peace. You begin to notice patterns, divine repetitions, not because the world is repeating itself, but because your eyes have been sharpened by faith, your ears have been tuned by pain, your heart has grown quiet enough to actually hear. This is what awakening feels like your whole body becomes an antenna, not for fear, not for noise, but for truth. You walk through your day and suddenly everything feels like a lesson, a symbol, a mirror. And it is, because life starts reflecting what your soul is finally ready to see. Sometimes the signs are confirmation, keep going. Other times they're correction, go left, not right. And every now and then, they're comfort. You're not alone, we're with you. Don't give up. And no, not everyone sees them. Not everyone feels what you feel. That's because you've entered a season they haven't yet touched. You've stepped into alignment, and alignment always sharpens awareness. You've surrendered control, and surrender always opens the heart to wonder. You used to miss the messages. You used to be so caught up in the noise, in the hustle, in the need to figure everything out. But now you walk slower, you breathe deeper, you listen more. And in that stillness, the signs become louder than ever. Even your pain begins to speak in signs. The ache that used to confuse you now teaches you. The delays that used to frustrate you now protect you. The doors that closed in your face no longer feel like rejection. They feel like redirection. And the redirection feels divine. You don't need to force clarity anymore. You just stay open. You trust that what you need will find you, that guidance will appear when you're ready, not when you're desperate. You've stopped begging for answers. Now you wait with open hands, and the signs arrive like gifts in the wind. You see the feathers, you hear the lyrics, you notice the numbers, you feel the chills, you pay attention when the light flickers, when the air changes, when something in your gut says, look again. Because you've learned that when your spirit speaks, it does not lie. You're not going crazy. You're becoming conscious. You're not imagining things. You're awakening to the divine intelligence always moving through you, around you, for you. And with every sign, every synchronicity, every perfectly timed word, you feel the universe holding you. You feel seen, guided, kept. And even though the future is still unclear, you walk forward anyway. Because the signs have shown you enough to know you're not walking alone. There comes a shift in your life where loud no longer impresses you. Chaos no longer seduces you. The fire of conflict that once made you feel powerful now just burns your fingertips. The need to be right becomes far less important than the need to be well. And so, without announcement or apology, you start choosing peace every single time. Not because you're weak, not because you're scared, but because you finally learned what peace costs and what it gives. You've lived long enough in the noise to understand the value of quiet. You've fought wars that left you empty. You've defended yourself to people who never intended to understand. And now you see the trap before it even sets. You see the bait of drama, and you simply don't bite. You hear the provocation, and instead of rising to meet it, you sink into your calm. You feel the heat of someone else's fire trying to pull you in, and you step back instead of forward. Not every spark deserves your flame. Not every disagreement deserves your voice. You begin to feel the difference between power and presence. Power often comes dressed in pride, fists clenched, always ready for the next battle. But presence, true presence, carries peace like a second skin. It walks into the room and changes the temperature without raising a single voice. You stop needing to have the last word. You stop rehearsing arguments in your mind. You stop gathering evidence to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need the noise to feel important. You don't need the drama to feel alive. You've outgrown that version of you. Now you measure wealth in moments of ease, in conversations that nourish, not drain, in silence that feels like safety, not tension. You crave softness in a world addicted to hardness. You crave the company of those who know how to breathe before they speak, who don't raise their voice when they feel unseen, who don't confuse chaos with connection. Peace becomes your compass. If it doesn't feel like still waters, you don't wade into it. If it doesn't speak with kindness, you don't answer it. If it disturbs your sleep, it can't stay in your spirit. And if it costs you your inner calm, the price is too high, no matter how familiar the pattern, how tempting the drama, how loud the invitation. There is a discipline in choosing peace. It takes strength not to react. It takes courage to walk away. It takes clarity to know that just because you can win the fight doesn't mean the fight is worth your energy. Some battles are only won by refusing to engage. You begin to bless those who try to stir you. You see them not as enemies, but as unhealed. And you remember a time when you were unhealed too, when you needed the drama, when you fed on the tension, when you confused intensity with love. But you are not there anymore. Now you know what it feels like to sit in your own stillness and not be bored, to sit in your own truth and not feel the need to shout it, to let others spin in their storm without inviting their wind into your home. There is a quiet kind of power in that. You understand that peace doesn't always look like smiling. Sometimes peace is not replying. Sometimes it's walking out. Sometimes it's declining the call, the invitation, the argument. Sometimes it's staying home when the room is full of performance and pride. Sometimes it's letting someone else be right while you go and live your life. You begin to recognize that most chaos is not about you. It's about projection. It's about people wrestling with their own demons, their own insecurities, their own noise. And you learn how to stop catching what isn't yours. You let it pass. You let it go. Peace becomes your boundary, it becomes your filter. If they disturb it, they don't get to stay close. If they threaten it, they don't get to sit at your table. You don't chase after those who bring confusion. You don't beg for closeness that costs your clarity. You don't water relationships that dry your spirit. You are no longer impressed by who can shout the loudest. You are impressed by who can listen deeply, love gently, and walk away when staying means self-betrayal. You no longer think strength is found in struggle. You know now, the strongest person in the room is the one who stays rooted in peace, unmoved, unshaken, whole. Because peace is not passive. Peace is power wearing grace. There is a sacred heaviness that settles inside you before your life blooms. It is not sorrow, not fear, not fatigue. It is expectancy. It is the quiet swell of something forming beneath the surface, something you can't name but can't ignore. You feel it the moment you rise in the morning. You feel it when you're sitting still. You feel it when you close your eyes and hear your own breath louder than the world. Your spirit is full, round, tender, like it's carrying a truth not yet spoken. You are pregnant with possibility. You can't explain it to anyone. When you try, the words get caught between mystery and miracle. They ask, "What's changed?" And all you can say is, "Everything and nothing." Because nothing in your world looks different, yet everything within you feels rearranged, as if your soul took inventory of your life while you were sleeping and made room for something larger. You walk through your days sensing something is about to arrive, not from outside you, but from within. You are not waiting on life to hand you a new chapter. You are writing one with every breath, every surrender, every decision not to go back to what once felt safe, but now feels too small. Your movements become more intentional. Your solitude becomes sacred. You start saying no without guilt and yes without fear. You start choosing light without needing to explain why you no longer dance in the dark. The old ache to be chosen fades, and in its place rises a quiet knowing you were always chosen by something holy and unshakable. You feel it in your belly, this pressure that isn't pain, this weight that isn't burden. It's the fullness of becoming, the stretch of potential pressing against the walls of who you used to be. And it humbles you because now you understand why you were delayed, why you were hidden, why you were broken down. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. You no longer resent the waiting. You no longer fight the stillness, because now you see it for what it is: gestation, sacred, unseen growth, the kind that makes roots before it ever makes fruit, the kind that silences the world so your soul can finally hear its own whisper. You are learning that purpose is not a destination, it is a birth. And like all births, it begins in darkness, in silence, in sacred isolation. And just like a mother carries a child before she ever holds it, you have been carrying this next version of yourself, quietly, tenderly, fiercely. You feel things more deeply now. The breeze feels like a blessing. A song can bring you to tears. The touch of kindness from a stranger can undo you. It's because your heart is wide open, vulnerable and raw, like earth right before the rain. You are open now, not because you are fragile, but because you are fertile. There's a divine discomfort that comes with being filled with what hasn't yet come forth. You feel stretched by dreams that haven't taken form. You feel restless in a life that hasn't caught up to your spirit. You're not lost. You're not late. You're just carrying something so real, the world hasn't made space for it yet. And though you're uncertain, you are not afraid, because deep in your bones, there is an assurance that doesn't come from logic. It comes from alignment. You know what you feel is sacred. You know what's coming is necessary. You know the path won't look like anyone else's, because what you're carrying has never existed before. You stop comparing timelines. You stop measuring your worth by what's visible. You understand now that some of the greatest transformations happen quietly, that the deepest breakthroughs often come disguised as stillness, and that your spirit knows more than your mind ever could. You can't rush this kind of becoming. Just like no child can be forced from the womb before its time, no dream, no destiny, no divine assignment can be forced from the soul before it is fully formed. So you wait. But it's not a hopeless wait. It is a holy one. A wait laced with trust, rooted in surrender, heavy with knowing. You tend to your spirit like soil. You protect your energy like it's sacred ground. You no longer entertain what drains you. You no longer engage what dishonors you. You are too full of future to entertain fragments of your past. Every heartbeat, every breath, every sunrise is a contraction, a reminder that your breakthrough is near. You're not just growing, you're becoming. And this time, you won't need to chase or beg or force. What is yours is already blooming inside you. And when the time is right, the world will feel it. Because when your spirit gives birth to purpose, it doesn't whisper, it echoes. So if you've been wondering what's happening to you, if your peace feels louder than your pain, if your soul keeps tugging at you like a child needing to be held, don't run from it. That's the sound of breakthrough being born. Change doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through restlessness, through quiet courage, through subtle release. Your life, beloved, is not falling apart. It is falling into place. And it's about to be beautiful.